Bazelgeuse, Tzitzi-ya-ku, and Zorah Magdaros. These were the ingredients to create the perfect monster. But then, Professor Utonium added a secret ingredient, chemical basil.
Oh yes, my fellow hunters, we've got a fun one today. We are going to create a masterpiece. A monstrosity, abomination, insult to man. It depends how far along the scale you put yourself, but let's have a good time. I love the weaponry in Monster Hunter, and no, not those placed firmly in the hunter's hands, the one grown in the vast wilderness. The armaments of the monsters, what they bring to bear, the little tricks that they can deploy. From razor-sharp claws, where size really does matter, all the way to breath that can melt from steel, you've got your basics. But then you got things like, this horse can summon lightning! But I kind of don't want to focus on the Elder Dragon mystical powers, because I kind of want to keep it grounded. You know, I like to stay grounded, okay? I like to rub all up in that dirt. Why did I... Has anyone ever played Impossible Creatures? You essentially, in a lab, cook up a tiger with lobster claws and hawk wings and send 100 of them to destroy your enemy, as they send back at you spider bat cats. It's a lot of fun. Imagine that, but with Monster Hunter. So I kind of want to go over my favourite little natural weapons, with giving a few nods to the more subtle ones, and then, well, mash them together. And you know what? You're gonna do it as well. Get typing. At number 5 then, I actually want to give all my love to Tsuyoku. Because having a flashbang head, it must be quite said, is a great way to not be dead. And I love how this is done. Firstly, it does make him look more intimidating, increases his apparent body size, and the colours themselves prove a deadly warning. And that's enough for a lot of animals to be like, whoa, I ain't missing anyone with fans that impressive. But to a few of the local wildlife, it's not quite enough by itself. The Shamos do actually prey on Tsuyoku. He's kind of low down the food chain. He's a raptor, he's got the claws, the agility. You still wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley, but let's just say you should be wearing sunglasses if you do. You see, the Shamos have a glaring weakness. Glaring, like with their eye. It's their eyes. Their eyes are... You should have seen that coming. That's 2 of them. That's 2 of them there. Look, I know they were cornier jokes than you expected. Cornier. Like, the thing in you. Is that a 3 strikes and I'm out situation there?
Just stop it.
They have large eyes, exceptional night vision, and it lets them spot prey incredibly well. But this works against them when you pour a sudden huge volume of light because, well, my eyes! And it lets Tsuyoku flash and escape the pack of them because there is a lot. Titsu could be a few of them by himself in a straight fight, of course he could, but numbers are a crushing and important, arguably the most effective advantage any species could have. So Titsu is quite the weapon to deal with this. He also uses the flash to bring down his prey, the winged drakes, stun them out of the air and cart them off, kill and eat them before they even know what's happening. But how is this done? Well, the quintessential example, of course, is fireflies in real life. Using a chemical concoction that they release and react together in their abdomen, it glows temporarily and then settles down. So you scale this up, right? You increase its intensity. It's quite a believable sudden source of intense light. So the fans themselves, the shape, are curved concave forward, which act as a sort of headlight, pointing and condensing the light that is produced, letting it bounce back and forth and be directed. This intensifies the emission as well. So he starts to flash, floods his fans with the chemicals required, and slowly they start to react. And you see this as he winds up to it, little flashes of light before the main event. Then the reaction happens proper violently, and suddenly, and everything in front of him, well, the world goes white. And I think it is quite beautiful. Certainly a better monster and better use of it than fucking Gypsyros. Nobody cares about flailing rubber chicken, alright? Gypsyros, next time you play dead, kill yourself. Look, you're fine to like him, just as everyone is allowed to be wrong. And at number 4 then, I actually just want to move up the food chain in the Coral Highlands and look at Lejiana, because I think it's quite understated. The ability to generate and manipulate ice. Lejiana does this by being very cool. Oh my god, stop! Sorry, I won't do it again. And it's really not that complex how she goes about achieving that, if a little bit. Okay then. So the Coral Highlands is already a very cold place. It's very high up, it makes sense. There is lots of moisture in the air and the atmosphere there, and Lejiana takes advantage of that. She has an incredibly low body temperature. She's like a living fridge, which sounds like some really weird insult. Yeah, well, you're a living fridge! But if you did put your hand against Lejiana, it would be like putting it against the inside of your fridge. Now, she has a ridged chest lined with vents, leading all the way down to her tail. These vents act like traps. You see, the Coral Highlands is incredibly moisture-rich. The air is thick with it. It's also very cold to begin with. So the moisture in the air cools down against her skin and starts to clog up in these vents, amassing larger amounts, and she always has a little thin sheen of ice forming. But the real kicker is she breathes in. Due to the temperature of her body, the air is cooled even further, and then she can force it out at speed through these vents, super chilling rapidly the air and making it suddenly form crystallized ice down her full length. And when ice begets ice, it grows and grows and looks like this beautiful shimmering fur that she's suddenly generated. Then with her fan-like tail, aerial acrobatics and grace, she can send it blasting out in great gouts with huge gusts of winds that her movements have generated. And this works incredibly well, of course it does. An animal doesn't respond well to being suddenly covered in ice. It saps energy, it makes movements lethargic, it forces the body to go into panic as it tries to fight off the sudden change in temperature. You know, when you dunk your head in cold water and it's a sudden moment afterwards. Well, yeah, that is the panic moment. Things don't respond well to icy conditions, unless, of course, you are built for them. So, this then causes the monster or the prey to panic and become easy pickings for Lejiana, swooping down and, well, rip throat, claw back and kill. Okay, look, I thought it might sound like a good chant, and maybe I was wrong. Either way, that's Lejiana for you. I think it's really quite well done, and yeah, it's a little bit out there, right? Blasting super chilled air, but it does have a little bit of somewhat making the sense behind it. In at number 3, then, it's kind of hard not to mention good old Anjanath. Yeah, now you might be thinking, what? Anjanath doesn't do anything crazy, you just got a bit of fire, you know, fire breathing, everything breathes fire, you know, like it's the most basic bitch monster choice. When the monsters are in character creation, and like, alright, let's have a look at my weaponries, and they scroll down and they see fire breath and fireballs and fire beams, they're like, yeah, I'm having that. And then they get carried by their overpowered ability, because fire is very effective against animals. It's arguably the most effective weapon outside of large numbers and organized hunting strategies. So again, why Anjanath? Well, it's arguable that his fire breathing is the most elegantly designed and believable of all the monsters. So to breathe fire, you need 3 main components. Number 1, the body needs to produce and deliver to the mouth a chemical concoction that once there will react and cause a flame. Number 2, a method of propulsing that flame out the mouth at speeds that actually make it somewhat threatening instead of just trickling out like half a foot out the mouth, like, haha, look at my flaming mouth, which I guess would work to enhance a bite, but it's not really worth the effort of being able to do it at that point. And finally, you have to be able to handle and sustain the negatives of having a fire inside of you. So how does Anjanath do this then? Well, the first and foremost is he produces the flame internally. Chemicals react and ignite lower down the throat and essentially make this gurgling, roiling ball of fire. That's all well and good. So, Anjanaf's lungs then are huge. You could use them as a sleeping bag. And he can take in great volumes of oxygen. And let's just say there's a reason you gently blow on a flame to get it to grow and take hold. But that's not the main draw here. He is capable of contracting and expelling all of this air at incredible speeds and force, collapsing down his lungs and chest to really propulse it out of him in a huge and this then races past the fireball forming and sends it billowing out as the great gout of flame that he can produce. But there's more to this tale then, because in order to fill such huge lungs with the air required for this, he needs to be able to take in the air to begin with. Well, how does he do that? Well, look at his nose. It is massive. Whenever he goes to use fire, it expands out, engorges, fills with blood the membrane that it is, and he has huge nostrils. This, coupled with his mouth, allows him to suck in vacuum-like the air required for the task. It also lets him regulate his body heat a lot more, because while his mouth is occupied with, breathing out fire, his nose then allows him to more accurately regulate the output and input of more air. It also lets him not suffocate on any smoke that might be caused by it, and it also lets him somewhat regulate his body temperature, but not as much as the sails on his back. They are the key to this whole shebang. I mean, you got to accept that he's got fire retardant skin internally, otherwise, well, he'd just burn up inside, but the heat generated by an internal flame is huge, and normally in a creature that size, the body's temperature is going to overheat massively, and you will just collapse from exhaustion and pass out. So he needs to rapidly chill his body while the fire is rapidly attempting to do the opposite. The sails achieve this. Huge thin membranes that blood pumps up, releasing the heat before flowing back down to grab another chunk of it, like it's some sort of bailing bucket on a sinking boat of fire. I don't know what I'm getting here at, but the point is the sails do act as huge thermal regulators that support his fire breathing. You notice he only ever breathes fire when both nose and fins are deployed, and that is pretty damn cool. So yeah, Anjanaf's fire breathing I think is really special and really well done. At least that's my interpretation of it. I could be proven hilariously wrong. Next up then, how can you not mention Bazelgeuse? He doesn't need touching on with any great depth. I've talked about him a lot, done a full documentary on him, but those chemical concoction explosion scales, bombardier beetle encaustic mixed nature are hilariously effective. Being able to blow up with fire and force against monsters, against animals, is just unfair, honestly. There's nothing you can do. The fear it instills, the power, the damage it does, you have to be super resistant to even have a chance to stand up to him. It's just brutal. It really is. There's a reason he is a roaming, nomadic apex that asserts dominance everywhere he goes. The rapid growth of it is a little bit questionable. I mean, it's like if a lizard lost its tail and it just kind of went and Piccolo'd the shit out of it, but you can kind of imagine super enhanced growth. But certainly a monster growing a special organ or detachable little fleshy scale pouch designed on impact to trigger, react, and explode. It's sort of almost there. But the thing is, despite how much you might be like, yo, okay, it's undeniably hilariously good at what it does. Like, translated to real life, I don't think there'd be a single better defense mechanism that exists. It's so broken. So of course, Mr. Dun, last name, makes this list. And then finally at number 1, this one might be a little bit surprising, but Zorah Magdaros. Now, I know I wanted to not really look at Elder Dragons, but let's be honest, he's a walking pushover. Don't push him over, though. Like, we can't handle that level of earthquake. But he is fascinating in his function, because the lava that he's coated in, the volcanic rock shell that it gives him, isn't natural lava. He is producing it. It is his, well, defense. And it's not genuine lava, but it is very close to it. An incredibly hot, boiling, I say boiling, it's fucking lava, it's way above boiling. Either way, an insanely hot... Why am I describing the temperature of... It's fucking lava! It is put your hand in... Owie! And you don't want to go near that. Like, even being in close proximity of the stuff is not good for you. And, you know, throwing yourself in would cause you to pop like a balloon as all the liquid in your body gets superheated and expands. It's not a nice death. But Zorah Magdaros' body is completely cool with handling it. How it handles it is another question altogether. But what it does do, especially on his scale, is create an essentially impenetrable defense. It's rock. He's a moving mountain. It excretes out of him through his pores in the skin and, well, hardens, cools, and then the next layer comes, and the next layer comes. The longer he lives, the bigger he gets, and because he is so large, he can handle the weight. One would think eventually it would get too much and it would weigh him down. I assume there's some sort of, well, that's enough. But the point is, he's wearing a coat of rock that is incredibly thick, that is still producing the lava, making it incredibly warm lava. I can't sell lava. I just can't do it. Nobody will buy it. And dangerous to be on. He's just, it's the perfect defense. And I absolutely love it. So that rounds up my favorites, but what would I make? My ultimate synergy hybrid then. We start with a Bazelgeuse, okay? We want those bombs. They are way too effective to pass up on. Then we combine it with my second choice, a little bit of Zorah. So what we have then is we keep the head and the tail of the B-52 and give it a more body Zorah shape, a miniature one. So it kind of blends in, it's still got the basal, shiny, browny scales down its length, but it's more squat to the ground now, more turtly, all four legs placed. It loses the wings, and it's a much heavier creature. It'll plod along. It's not got a load of speed to it, especially as on top of the bombs that it's dropping, it gains Zorah's lavary secretions, and its back starts to produce this shell, this blanket of rock. It would have a kind of internal meter to know that, yeah, that's about enough, so it doesn't inadvertently weigh itself down after producing too much rock, but it would start to leave this trail of leaking lava slowly flowing behind it as it plods towards you, indomitable, inexorable in its advance, as all attempts to bring it down ping off of its rock hard, literally, shell. Its head would still be a little bit open, but still covered in the beard o' bombs. I kind of want to go for the ultimate defensive siege machine, and to that end I want to give it a little bit of artillery, so I'm going to throw in Dodo Gamma. Good old Dodo. I know I didn't talk about him, but he's certainly up there on, yeah, that's pretty effective, scooping up and superheating huge amounts of rock and crystal until it melts down and is spat back out as gobs of lava bomb goodness. That added on would be amazing. So we'll give it Dodo's legs, right? Squat to the ground. It's got a Zorah body with the rock shell, the basal bomb tail at the back, basal bomb head at the front, all blended together so it doesn't look too mishmashy. So it's walking towards you, lava trail exploding as you get near, and then it keeps leaning down, scooping up rock and firing explosive bombs of magma at you as it advances ever so deliberately. How cool would that be? The heavy unit of the hybrid monster army. I think that would be excellent. Behold, the Dodo Geese Magdaros! And I would love to hear your ideas for one of these in the comments. I know this is a little bit maybe out there video, but I don't know. I love these guys, and I love talking about them, love combining them. It's a lot of fun to imagine, and I bet you guys have some crackers going on down there. But either way, my name has been Josh. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, hit the bell, all of that stuff, and, you know, yeah, YouTube. I will see you very soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kinda relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.